And for more on this, we're now joined by TV Mohandas Pai, Chairman, RN Capital Partners, live from Bengaluru. Thank you so much for joining us on WION World as One.
Thank you.
To begin with, what's your broad outlook for the budget?
Look, India's fiscal situation is in great shape. Corporate taxes and income taxes are growing at 16%. Other indirect taxes are growing at 9 to 11%, depending on the time frame that you take. Expenditure is under control. In the 8 months till November, fiscal deficit is less than budgeted, less than last year. And this year, possibly they could be down to 4.7, 4.8. The GDP on a nominal basis could be slightly less than what they budgeted because growth will be lower and inflation may not be so as high as they had thought of when they set a target of about 10.5, 11%. So I think this year is a very good year. But the biggest thing is tax collections for individuals has gone up from 4.95 lakh crores 3 years ago to this year something like 12.5 lakh crores. That is huge. So I think the fiscal situation is good. What happened in the first 6 months was capital expenditure by government was less than what was budgeted, less than last year. That's what has hurt growth. If they had met their budgeted proportionate target, growth would have been higher because growth consists of consumption. Consumption is going up 7%, whereas capex came down. And capex came down because first quarter we had elections and it came down. And second quarter there were rains and possibly the government took their eye off the ball and didn't push on the pedal. When you have to spend 11.5 crores a year, if you miss any quarterly spending, it impacts growth seriously in this country. So I think the finance ministry needs to understand that. So we are set for a good year this year.
All right, that being said, what major policy changes would you say are needed to drive India's long-term economic goals?
Look, to me, the biggest challenge India faces today is to create well-paying jobs for about 1.5 to 1.8 crore young people who come into the workforce every year. About 21 years ago, we had 2.5 crore babies being born. They're attaining the age of 21 and taking 21 as the year when they come to the workforce, so it could be quite less. And we need to produce about 1.6 to 1.8 crore jobs. Now, we actually produce about 1.6 crore jobs as per EPFO. These are all formal jobs, largely in the south of the country. But 80% of them pay less than 20,000 rupees. As the chief economic advisor, Ananta Nageshwaran, said that we need to increase the payment compensation people get for the jobs. And possibly for the last 5 years, formal jobs have not grown more than 3 to 5%, not yearly, over the 5-year period. And I think we need to raise minimum wages in many service industries, which are local, and some manufacturing where the skills are higher, so that people get more money, because Indian industry profitability has gone up tremendously in the last 3 to 5 years, but they're not paying more to labor. If you look at the labor value add, it's actually come down from Indian industry in the last 3 years. So we have to create good jobs. And how do you create good jobs? We have to create good jobs in the 400 poorest districts that people are coming off the land. So we have suggested that we should have a special economic zone scheme whereby anybody creating a job in the 400 poorest districts across India, in the district itself, by any industry, will get 2,000 rupees a month as incentive for 24 months for creating the job, plus get the payment of the employer for EPFO and ESI paid by the government of India. This payment is already there as part of a government scheme. We have to incentivize them and aim to create maybe 50 lakh, 70 lakh jobs in the poorest district. Because you create buying power in the poorest district, the labor output and cost will be lesser for labor-intensive industries. They'll be competitive. India has got good road network, good power network, and there's no problem about logistic costs because it's coming down tremendously across India. But we need to create jobs in a place where people don't have to migrate, and that will make sure in the cities people need to pay more, and that will improve the buying power of the bottom 60%. The second thing we need to do is to make sure that tax terrorism comes down. Tax disputes have gone up from 4.5 lakh crores to 12.5 lakh crores, but in 2014 to 2024, and if you look at our article in the main, the disputes with Minister of Income Tax has gone up from about 5,25,000 to 5,85,000, 5,95,000 in 3 years. That means more and more disputes are coming up because they're out of control. I think we've got to bring it down and say next year they're not going to raise any more disputes. They're going to focus on cleaning up the previous disputes. And they must start tax tourism of tax authorities going and raiding people, going to the media and losing the case in the courts because 70% of cases for tax disputes have come down. And the third thing they have to do very carefully is to bring down the regulatory burden and bring down the ease of business. Our regulators like RBI are out of control. RBI has become a state within a state. They're issuing regulation without consulting people, not understanding how it hurts people. They'll ban something, they'll stop something. Another thing is hurting people. Confidence is getting impaired. Because if you make regulation like that, how can investors invest with confidence? So I think the regulatory cholesterol has to come down. Many of the regulations have to be rolled back. We've got to be careful of regulation for sophisticated investors and stop the onslaught of regulations coming into the market to hurt investors there. And the next point which I'll say, and I'll stop here, I want to make a point. We got to invest in the justice system. We got 5 crore cases in court. 250,000 undertrials are in jail, even though they spend more than 50% of the time that have been convicted if it's come to trial. And we have only 20 judges per million population. We need at least 50 as per the law commission. America has got 100. We got to expand capacity, remove cases pending in the court which the government has filed, and remove the clutter. Bring in summary cases for Section 125 check bonds cases and rental cases, and bring justice to people. These are the big policy issues that we have to look for in the budget.
All right. Mr. Mohandas Pai, thank you so much for joining us on A WION World as One with your insights on this. For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.